Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm taking a look at this Pineapple Milkshake IPA. That's right, today I'm taking a look at this from Black Sheep Brewery in North Yorkshire. It's their Pineapple Milkshake IPA, which is not three words I usually put together in a good way. Now, let's take a quick look at the can before we dive in. It simply says Pineapple Milkshake IPA, Juicy Tropical, 5.3%, which will be a bone of contention because 5.3 isn't really into IPA territory, it's just a pale ale. So a Pineapple Milkshake pale ale doesn't sound any better. The artwork on the can is pretty cool, but I don't want to read too much about it. I want to dive straight in and then let you know what we think. Just before we do, obviously you can take a look at the front of the can. That is some pretty funky artwork. I've been a fan of Black Sheep for many years now. They're certainly not one of the breweries you consider to be one of the modern architects of craft. They are much more a traditional ale, real ale kind of provider, but I have noticed in the last few years they are starting to branch out into more craft-esque playful things. They do a pretty decent kind of semi-craft lager. I think it's called 45 North. Although to be fair, I haven't had it for a few years, so whether it's still any good or not, I'm not too sure. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the new ones. I've not tried it yet. It's been out for a while. I've, to be honest, been avoiding it because it sounds a bit weird. But hey, sometimes weird works. Getting a bit of pineapple aroma at a distance. It's a nice golden colour. Pours pretty well. Looks appealing in the glass. It's very clear. I've done a lot of hazy and purposefully murky beers recently. It's a bit refreshing to see one that I can actually see the camera through for once. So, you know, that's it's a nice change. That head's dissipating fairly quickly. Let's get some aromas. Okay, sweet pineapple as you'd expect. I'm getting a bit of, what were those sweets called? I want to say not Tang Fastics, that's the Haribo ones. The Chewits. I think they did a pineapple chewit. It kind of smells a bit like that. It smells a touch boozy, it smells a touch generic beery. You get a little bit of kind of a hop and malt blend coming through as you would with more traditional pale ale. But the sweet notes of that kind of pineapple sweet thing are overriding. A bit like those squashy drumstick sweets you get now, it's kind of that sort of aroma. Right, cheers. It's not horrendous, I'm just a bit, I think it's a bit confused. Let's talk about a few different things with this. So, it's thin. I mean, it's really quite thin, which isn't always a bad thing depending on what you want to drink, but the milkshake idea in this, I want something a bit more rich and lush, and it's not really. It's pretty piss watery, and the mouthfeel as a result is not all that inspiring. It's lightly carbonated, I guess. You can't really see much in the glass, but you do get a bit of firing off the tongue, and then on the swallow of the mouthfeel you get a bit kind of in the back of the throat, but it's not off-putting, it's just not particularly appeasing either. The aromas have settled down now. Maybe it's just I'm becoming used to it, but it's a bit flatter and I'm getting more kind of boozy notes on the nose than a great deal else. The sweetness is definitely still there, but maybe playing second fiddle now to the fact that quite simply it is alcohol. Right, actual tasting notes, let's try for this. The initial taste is a bit of a bitter and sweet balancing act. It's got a bit of both in there. There's not a predominant flavour rather than just a predominant taste bud execution, if that makes sense. You know that there's something bitter and you know it's something a bit sweet at the same time, and that's all it really is. It's not giving you notes of anything more than just those sensations. And I think some of that is exacerbated by the prickliness of the slight carbonation on the tongue. In the middle, it's acidic pineapple, smoothed off into sweet pineapple, and then something reminiscent of being creamy, which I guess is the milkshake part. There's definitely some lactose in here, I would imagine. I'll check the label in a minute, but I'm fairly certain that is the case. It goes from slightly sour pineapple into sweet pineapple, and then into sweet, more just not quite vanilla but near enough kind of creaminess. That's not a bad sensation. In fact, the taste profile, if you can isolate it from the mouthfeel and everything else, and the kind of the initial bitter bit and everything, is actually pretty good. Is it good? I mean, it's certainly not offensive. I'm not hating it. I'm quite happy to drink this. I was hoping for a lot more, but ultimately, this was at a price point, and it was at a pretty low one. So, you know, not all bad. And then the finish. The finish is a bit of a spiky fruit explosion, going back to being slightly sour, a bit of bitterness on the back of the tongue. Again, with that carbonation kick as it hits the back of the throat. Quite refreshing, actually. To say that it's saying milkshake, I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I would probably have pinned this at more of a beery pina colada in a can than a milkshake IPA, because it's not really, it's not hazy, it's not thick, it's none of those things that you really associate with other beers that use those kind of monikers. So yeah, I see what they're doing. It's nice. It was probably labelled as such as a marketing exercise, to be honest, but it's not horrendous. The taste profile is decent. It's just completely let down by the lack of body and otherwise a bit of a weird thing. If that was dead flat, much thicker, creamier mouthfeel, I think this would be a very different conversation. Let's take a look at the can. It says, brewed with fresh pineapple juice, lactose, I was right, and a touch of vanilla. Ah, I did pick up some vanilla. I'm pretty pleased about that. This is a juicy, tropical and smooth IPA. Denali hops add even more pineapple notes as well as a light bitterness to finish. Lightly carbonated and uber juicy. Okay, so what I said gels reasonably well with the description on the can. It doesn't say much about it being thick and luxurious because, well, it's not. Black Sheep Brewery PLC, Masham, North Yorkshire. I went to their brewery last year between the lockdowns, actually. Really interesting place. Obviously, you couldn't do a brewery tour. It was you were allowed in the shop with your mask on to buy a few bits and leave. Well, it's a bit of a neutral beer, really. It didn't cost a lot. I'm having a reasonable time with it. It has some serious flaws, but it has some positive notes as well. It's a decent all-rounder. It's not particularly offensive, and if you want to try something quirky or get a friend into something quirky without giving them an exquisite £7 can of something that's only been brewed once in a full moon under an old milkshake factory in South Dakota, then, well, this might do it. Right, I think that's everything from me on this. You get the idea. It's fine. Not a lot else to say, really. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it if you haven't already. Subscribe if you would be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.